Hey guys, welcome to the next tutorial for ethical hacking and penetration testing via Kali Linux. So in this tutorial we will be taking a look at footprinting methodology of DNS footprinting. So this section describes as to how to extract the DNS information and the DNS interrogation tools. So attacker can gather DNS information to determine key hosts in the network, and they can perform social engineering attacks to gather more information. So DNS footprinting allows you to obtain information about the DNS zone data, and this DNS zone data includes DNS domain names, computer names, IP addresses, and much more about a particular network. And I don't need to say anything specific what will happen if then hackers go ahead and get the IP addresses or the computer names. So the attacker performs the DNS footprinting on the target network in order to obtain the information about DNS. He or she then uses the gathered DNS information to determine the key host in the network, and then he or she will perform the social engineering attack to gather more information. DNS footprinting can be performed using the DNS interrogation tools, and we have several other tools over here. I'll just go ahead and show it out to you. And just before I proceed, you might be wondering, if you are wondering that I'm here to teach Kali Linux, but I'm still showing you tools that can be downloaded and installed even on Mac or let's say Windows. Yes, I'm showing you these tools because this is just an overview of what footprinting is and which tools are available. But when you go ahead and use Kali Linux, these tools are already available inside them. You don't need to install them specifically or install them okay, just a moment. Okay, you don't need to install them specifically as to any random or update them, because every time you go ahead and update your repositories, these tools get updated on their own, and you don't have any need to go ahead and gather all the tools and make your own operating system, because you have all of these tools available inside Kali Linux. So if you just to show, I can go ahead and show you some tools that are available for gathering DNS or WHOIS. So just let this, okay. So as you can see over here, we have these security tools, and for information gathering we have DNS analysis for intrusion detection systems such as antiviruses and all those. We have IDS identification, live host identification, network scanners, and OS fingerprinting tools. And the best of them is the Zenmap and the Nmap, which can almost give you all the information, if not, or it can give you most of the information, if not all, to go ahead and do some social engineering attacks on your client. So before that, I'll just go ahead and show you what these tools are and how they work. So I'll just go ahead and open dnsstuff.com. Okay, so this is one website, and we have dnsstuff.com, and it is possible to extract DNS information about IP addresses, mail server extension, DNS lookups, WHOIS lookups, etc. And if you want information about a target company, it is possible to extract its range of IP addresses utilizing the IP routing lookup of DNS stuff. And if the target network allows unknown or unauthorized users to transfer DNS zone data, then it is very easy for a hacker to obtain the information about DNS with the help of DNS interrogation tools. Once you send the query using DNS interrogation tool to the DNS server, the server will respond to you with a record structure that contains information about the target DNS, and DNS records provide important information about location and types of server and where they are. So the important points for DNS server would be DNS interrogation would be points to a host IP address. It can also give out point to domains, mail server, and name server. Canonical naming allows you to alias the host, and it can also indicate the authority for the domain, service records, and it can also map IP addresses. So there are a few different tools such as network-tools.com and different other websites. Performing a DNS query available at DNS Queries is a tool that allows you to perform a DNS query on any host. So there is one more website which is far better than the DNS stuff, and it is DNS Queries. And yes, here we have it. This is a tool that allows you to perform a DNS query on any host, and each domain name is structured in host. And the DNS, that's the domain name system, allows anyone to translate the domain name or the host name in an IP address to contact via the TCP/IP protocol. There are several types of queries responding to the implementation types of DNS records, such as MX, AAAA, CNAME, and SOA. So if you just want me to go ahead and give an example, let's check if I'm able to go ahead and do it for Microsoft.com. Just copy it and I'll just paste it. And okay, I'll just type invalid domain. As you can see that here it is my it's given over here my host name of my company and the geolocation of my address as to where I have been located and much more. So by these way you can go ahead and gather much more information by putting a host name or a domain name or anything that you want. So this is just an example, and let's say I just wanted to show you something. Let me check. This should work. Let's check. Okay, perfect. So as you can see, I have all the parent zone DNS server's address. We have the IP address starting from 193.193.221, and you can also go ahead and see the TDLP parent check. And so these are all the information that you can get, and you can go ahead and relate all the IP addresses that you get via these DNS servers. And the best part is that this may seem a bit complicated to you, and that is why we have Kali Linux to go ahead and simplify this out for us just by typing a simple few lines of code, not even few lines, just one line of code, and you will have all of these under your feet. So you can click and run this tool button, and the DNS information for Microsoft.com will be displayed over here as shown. And we have several other DNS integration tools such as kloauth.net. If you want, you can just write it down, and I'll just go ahead and show it off to you. kloauth.com, and I'll just okay. Hey guys, welcome to the next tutorial for ethical hacking and penetration testing via Kali Linux. So far we have collected information about, but just before I proceed, in the previous tutorial I taught you about the WHOIS and the DNS lookup. So far we have collected information about IP addresses, network range, server names, and etc. of the target network. But now it's time to find out the OS running on the target network, the technique of obtaining information about the target network OS, and it is called as OS fingerprinting. So if you remember properly, then I showed you, let me just open it, I showed you a different tool over here which gathers information about OS, and it's given over here as OS fingerprinting. And the best part of this, which I normally use, would be Nmap or the ZenMap, and I'll show you one example. I won't be teaching you as to how we actually go ahead and do that. I'll be teaching you that later on by the end of this tutorial. So I'll just open my another operating system and I'll just power it on. There are different tools except Kali Linux that allows you to gather information, although Kali Linux has a better one. But still, if you are not using Kali Linux for some reason, then there is a netcraft.com site, and you can go ahead and type the domain name of your target network in and which site it's running, and it will give you the domain name along with the operating system running on it. So I'll just go ahead and show you one example for that. Okay, and since we don't need, okay, let's take a look, and I'll just go ahead and type out over here, search, let's check Microsoft.com. Let's check if I'm able to get that. Okay, perfect. So as you can see, we have Microsoft.com, which works on NetBlock Equima International, and it was first seen on August 1995, and they are using operating system Linux. And for go.microsoft.com, we have Windows Server 2012, and I believe this one may be the Unix server system because it's unknown, and that's what happens when you use a Unix operating system. It is unable to detect because it's not Linux or Windows. That's the reason. Then as you can see that we have all the names of operating system and that they are using currently right now. So this is just an example, but you can do the same thing using Kali Linux as well. And there is another search engine which is quite famous, which is the Shodan search engine. Just type Shodan HQ. Okay, perfect. So you can use Shodan search engine that lets you find specific computers using a variety of filters. So to give you an example, I'll just show you here. I believe we need to sign up for that. Okay, let's search. Okay, let me type Microsoft and let's see what we get. Okay, so let me check. Okay, so as you can see, we have these services running on Microsoft, and these are the top countries using them. If I want, I can go ahead and filter these by services. So let's check. If I want HTTP, then I'll just go and search for port 80, and let's see, we don't have any port 80 over here open. So let's check if you could get the FTP open. No. Then this proves that Microsoft is quite secure, and it won't be anything easy for us to go ahead and hack over there. Perfect. If I just go ahead and type Microsoft. Perfect. If I check the HTTP one, none. HTTPS. Perfect. So this shows that Microsoft is quite secure since we are unable to get any open ports in that. But if you go ahead and check some random or newly developed website, then they may not be that strong and they may give you out open ports, and if you find the open port, then you already have a jackpot for that, and you can easily go ahead and gather as much information that you want. So this is one example, but we also have traceroute, and finding the route of the target host is necessary to test against the MITM attacks. And MITM means man in the middle attack, and it is also called as monkey in the middle attacks and other relative attacks. Therefore, you need to find the route of the target host in the network. This can be accomplished with the help of traceroute utility provided with most operating systems, and even Windows has that. It allows you to trace the path or the route through which the target host packets travel in the network. Traceroute uses the ICMP protocol concept and the TTL, that's time to live field, of the IP header to find out the path of the target host in the network. The traceroute utility can detail the path IP packets travel between two systems. It can trace the number of routers, the packets that travel through, the round trip time during the duration in transiting between two routers, and if the routers have DNS entries, name of the routers and the network affiliation as well as the geographic location. So this is quite useful for a hacker, and much more than I can say as useful, because they almost will have all the details. And it sends out a packet for the destination specified. So, and this utility helps to reveal the IP address of the intermediate hops in the route of the target host from the source. So I'll show you an example. Let's check if I can run this over here. And so let's go ahead and ACERT tracert 216.239.36.10. okay, tracert, it's unable to recognize that. Let me check. Okay, let me check. I believe I need to start that as the administrator. Perfect. And if I'm gonna check, let me check. Okay, perfect. So I'll just type tracert 216.239.36.10. so let's check how many hops do we get. And just if you don't know, 216.239.36.10 is the trace is the address of ns3.google.com, just in case you don't know. So let's check the total of 30 hops and how much do we get. As you can see, these are the IP addresses as to and the fourth one got timed out. So this shows that from which IP address and from how it is actually traveling. And what a hacker might do is that the first router in the path receives the packet, it decrements the TTL value, that's time to live value, by 1, and if the resulting TTL value is 0, it discards the packet and sends a message back to the originating host to inform it that the packet has been discarded. The same thing that happened over here when the request was timed out. And it records the IP address and the DNS of that router and sends out another packet with a TTL value of 2. This packet makes it to the first router, then times out at the next router in the path, and this second router also sends an error message back to the originating host. Traceroute continues to do this, and it records the IP address and the name of each router until a packet finally reaches the target host, or until it decides that the host is reachable. And yeah, it does the process in that way. So in this process, it records the time it took for each packet to travel the round trip to each router, and finally when it reaches the destination, the normal ICMP ping response will be sent by the sender. That's what it happened when Google.com sent it back over here. As you can see that these are the milliseconds that it took for it to go ahead and respond. So we have seen how the traceroute utility helps you to find out the IP address of the intermediate device such as routers, firewalls, etc. present between the source and destination. You can draw the network topology diagram by analyzing the traceroute results as well. And after running several traceroutes, you will be able to find out the location of a particular hop in the target network, and that's how it will work. So there are different traceroute tools as well.